On this week's episode of The Trading Bell, we are speaking to East Africa Breweries Limited Group Managing Director Andrew Cowan. Now, of course, EABL did post very promising results recently for the period ended December 31st, 2018. They have noted a 33% increase in profits. We're going to dive into the numbers and have an in-depth discussion with Andrew about different aspects of EABL. But before that, take a look at his profile. Andrew Cowan was appointed Group Managing Director at EABL in July 2016. He is an established business leader with a wide range of commercial and strategic management experience spanning over 20 years in the FMCG sector. Prior to this appointment, he led Diageo Great Britain GB. Mr. Cowan's experience straddles corporate leadership, strategy development, operational management, as well as sales and marketing. Andrew joined Diageo in 2008 as Commercial Director for Northern Ireland and was appointed to the role of Commercial Director in the Republic of Ireland a year later. He returned to GB in 2011 and led the business until his appointment to EABL. Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, so we're seeing, of course, very promising results. We saw a 6.6 billion that you posted. It's an increase of 33% rise in profits. So first of all, just, tell us what's the current feel that you're having with these particular numbers, and how optimistic are you about this year now?
I'm both pleased and humble about the numbers, Monica. The reason for that is we're 18 months into a 5-year strategy, so this is much more about one set of 6 months results. And I'm alive to the fact of two things. Firstly, we are lapping a slightly suppressed half this time last year. We were in the middle of 2 general elections, and consumption was definitely softer than it should have been. Mm-hmm. So we always expected half one to be strong. But secondly, what we did do during that half was continued with our investment programme. So we invested 1 billion shillings in a new spirits plant in Kenya. We invested a smaller amount, albeit significant for Uganda, in spirits in Uganda. And we continue with the building of the Kisumu brewery, which is a 15 billion shilling investment. And all these things were about underwriting the long term. So one of the things I'm pleased about is that the local management team had the courage to bite the bullet, continue the investment, and at the same time, I'm alive to the fact that we are lapping a slightly softer half than perhaps we're entering now.
Okay, all right. So, and as you've mentioned, you've got a lot of developments going on. You've got the Kisumu plant, of course, as well. That is very promising. You said you've invested about 15 billion in it, and you're aiming to create at least 15,000 jobs for farmers and things like that. So, what challenges do you anticipate coming from that particular operation, though?
Well, I'm delighted with the Kisumu investment. We're right at the end of the project. So normally it takes 2 years to build a brewery. We'll get this one up and running in 18 months, which is partly why we've managed to build the brewery for 14 billion shillings rather than 15 billion shillings, amongst other things. The second thing is all the farmers we intended to build new relationships with has now happened. So in addition to the 30,000 farmers that we've been working with for many years, we have now got that relationship up and running with the 15,000 farmers in addition, so it's 45,000 farmers. And as you'd imagine, if you want to open a brewery in the next few weeks or so, we needed to plant the sorghum a few months or so previous in order to have the raw materials. So as a project, it's been a model case study. The local management team, very, very dynamic. We took the best talent that was available to us to build a local management team up in Kisumu. So we believe it'll be a great plant and it'll make a big contribution to the west of Kenya socially.
Okay, and you've also said it is possibly the greenest plant in the world in terms of some of the, water management systems that you have. Can you elaborate on some of the things that make it such the greenest plant possibly in the world?
Yeah, there's two big things we did, and ironically both contribute to it being an efficient operation as well in terms of cost, which you need to keep a tight eye on when you're building a brewery to produce Senator. So two big things were we invested in biomass. So that's environmentally friendly because you burn waste in order to get your energy. And then the second thing we did was on water recovery. We invested in a much more efficient water management system that allows us to take down the number of litres of water per hectolitre of beer brewed, and both of those would be deemed sort of global best practice. So that's why I mentioned the green element of the new brewery.
Okay, fantastic. And, you know, of course, the manufacturing is part of the Big Four agenda that President Uhuru Kenyatta is working on currently and definitely pushing forward. So when it comes to manufacturing within Kenya, which you've been doing for a very long time, how have you seen the progression and what do you anticipate for the future? What are some of the things you feel that the government should focus on in order to really bolster manufacturing within the country as they're hoping to do?
Yeah, I mean, that priority from government is something that is dear to our heart because if you remember when we committed to the brewery, one of the things that we highlighted was Kenyan government's commitment to provide a predictable, sustainable environment. I think they're showing up with that. Secondly, Kenya has gone up the league table in terms of international ease of doing business countries, so that's good as well. And then thirdly, you point around us being here for a long time. We've been here for 97 years, and so Kisumu is a real highlight in but one chapter in many, many chapters of us being deeply integrated into Kenya and East Africa. And you know, in 3 years' time, when we celebrate our centenary, we'll be able to do so in a much more robust way because we'll be a much bigger business because of that investment. But our commitment to East Africa and Kenya is unequivocal, and it just makes it a more attractive investment destination when the government are making moves around committing to predictable, sustainable environments.
Okay, moving away from now, of course, that I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the numbers that you shared, including the fact that the reserve spirits saw growth of 54%, but, you know, our one of your priorities is the progress when it comes to bottled beer business. So although you said it's whether the excise increases, you've seen a flat in terms of the growth of the bottled beers. So how do you intend to push this particular product? Because I believe, you know, it's almost like you've reached a plateau when it comes to that.
The first thing is only 4 in 10 East Africans drink beverage alcohol, and the reasons the balance don't is a number of reasons. Affordability is one, availability is another, and product is another. And so the beauty of running a business like EABL is that we have an opportunity to be all things to all people. And so, you know, I recognise that affordability is a very big issue to huge communities of within Kenya, and therefore the investment in Senator is designed to give those communities access to affordable brands. I also recognise that if you look at the macros and the long-term growth of Kenya, there is a cohort of more wealthy Kenyans emerging into the marketplace. So I have a responsibility to provide that cohort with premium aspirational brands, and then we'll do everything in between as well. So it's every product, every price ladder to every consumer is kind of our mantra, which is why we've been able to be here for 97 years.
Okay, and you did mention the premium products. Once again, in regards to the numbers you've shown us, you said you want to lead with Scotch. You have seen the numbers show a decline of 3% when it comes to the premium products, and you say that, you know, there is consumer demand, but you're tackling the issue of porous borders. So when it comes to parallel stock coming into the country, which is one of the you know, issues that you're having. So how are you planning to tackle this particular challenge?
Well, there's a couple of points there. Firstly, Scotch is not in decline. Scotch is in really good growth. In particular, Johnnie Walker is, you know, becoming one of the most aspirational brands in the country, let alone globally. So we're really pleased with our Scotch performance, and we're really pleased with Johnnie Walker performance in particular. In terms of the borders and what do we intend to do, actually, you know, enforcing our borders is not our job. What we find very welcome is government are enforcing our borders much more robustly, and we welcome product coming into the country, but it has to have paid its taxes and it has to be genuine. And I think we welcome that governments are becoming intolerant of that, because it's just not fair on Kenyans or Kenyan Treasury to have non-duty paid product coming into the marketplace. Beyond that, I think the border control is a very positive thing.
Okay, aside from the border control, like you said, you know, you're very much open to other products coming into the market, and we've seen a lot of international players definitely switch focus to East Africa, Kenya, and come in with their premium products as well. So in terms of the competition landscape, what would you say?
Firstly, I'd say, and so they should. I've been here nearly 3 years. East Africa is one of the most vibrant regions in the world, and Kenya as a specific country is, you look at every sub-Saharan African report, it's a very, very attractive market. In terms of competition, I've been working for 30 years. I've never been in a market where there's not competition. We welcome it. And actually, I think competition is a key ingredient of keeping ourselves alert and true to the consumer. Our job is to provide products that consumers want, they can afford and they aspire to through great innovation, great marketing and great liquids, and that's what we'll do. And if we do that better than the competition, they'll choose us. But, competition is something that we welcome.
Okay. That's definitely a positive way to look at it. And if we move on now to the material that you talked about, you say locally you source about 80% currently, you want to move it to 100%. So how is the progress on that?
I mean, we're on a journey, Monica. If you go back less than a decade ago, we sourced 80% of our raw materials internationally. Today we sourced 80% of our materials locally. That has meant that we've created contractual relationships with 45,000 farmers, which was only 35,000 up until very recently. That means, an acre of land, a smallhold farmer with an acre of land can afford to live, buy food, send their kids to school, buy clothes, etc. And so it's back to the 97-year thing. We see our role in East Africa, and in particular in Kenyan communities, as way more than just selling beer. We have a responsibility to support government, whether it's excise or whether it's promoting agriculture, to bring this country to its potential. And as a non-national, that's what makes me passionate about being in this country. Okay, great. And as we just close up, you did say that interim dividend rates, you're looking at 2.5 shillings per share. And so how would you sum up your performance when it comes to the bourse that you have noticed in the past year? I think it's back to the long-term strategy. The 6-month performance in numbers is excellent, and I'm alive to the drivers of that, which is a combination of deliberate investment and lapping a soft period. My attention now is to use H2 to finish the job this financial year, so to focus on commercialising the Kisumu brewery, to focus on bringing the spirits lines to their full potential, to focus on innovating around bottled beer to build on that momentum that we started in the first half. But most importantly, to do things in this half that don't only finish off the job this year, but create new momentum into F20.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us on the Trading Bell today.
My pleasure.
CBA is a stronger bank, and they'll continue, realizing synergies between the two banks operating as one, compared to when these banks are operating individually.